Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amber Twitty, and I am part of the Community and Economic Development team at Central State University Extension. Want to thank everyone for joining us today. And before we get started, just want to quickly introduce our team members that are with us today. Eric is not with us today. He had a scheduling conflict. However, we have our illustrious program leader, Anthony Barwick.
Illustrious.
Yes, illustrious.
Hello, everybody.
Our tactical team lead, Ambrose Moses,
Good afternoon.
and my colleague, the good troublemaker with me, Paige. She's Pamela on screen, but we call her Paige. I lost.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today once again. And today, the purpose, as we said, the CED Office Hour Live is our opportunity to engage with the public, engage with other members of Central State, not just the extension, but university as well, and all of the surrounding communities. And it's a way to showcase what we do, also to provide information on just the programming and the impacts. And today, with us today, we have Trina Jackson, and she is the director of the Hamilton County Office of Reentry. And I'm pleased to say that she is also a community and economic professional. We started together many years ago, over 30 years now. And she is now, I'm telling our age, I'm sorry. And she is now running the Office of Reentry in Hamilton County, Ohio. And they have some great, awesome programs that affect the quality of life. And their mission and our missions are aligned. And we will later on today also be talking about how we will be partnering moving forward. But first of all, I would like to start off with Ms. Trina Jackson to introduce herself and kind of introduce the Office of Reentry.
Amber, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this conversation. I really am appreciative. Yes, me and Amber, we graduated 10 years ago. Okay, so I can say 15 maybe, yeah. But yeah, I appreciate Amber and everything that she brings to this work. So my background, like Amber mentioned, I have a master's in community planning, but my undergrad is in criminal justice. But, I spent 17 years in community planning, community engagement work. So for me to get back to just kind of something that was really a passion of mine prior to graduate school, which was the criminal justice field, was really attractive to me. And so I became the Office of the Reentry Director in 2017. And like I said, it allowed me to get back to something that I really cared a lot about, which was, just what's happening in the criminal justice system and how can we have a positive impact on people who have been going through the justice system, and, the experience will never be a good experience. And so how do we, change that for them and keep them out of the criminal justice system? So this is my opportunity to apply, all the things that I have experienced and all the knowledge that I've built to something like this. So our office was created in 2014, 2015 by our Hamilton County commissioners and Deanna Hoskins. She is the former director, and she created a great foundation for us here. Our work really is to identify strategies that reduce recidivism, but also connect justice-involved men and women to resources in the community that will either help them become stable or maintain their stability. So we are a small shop. There's 6 of us on the reentry side, and then we also have 3 employees on the lead side, and the lead side is our law enforcement assisted diversion. It is a grant-funded initiative to divert people with chronic mental illness, chronic homelessness, or chronic addiction from the criminal justice system. So, our work allows us to be very engaged with the community, but we also rely very heavily on the resources in the community community to support the people that we work with.
I actually muted myself. With that being said, what were some of the challenges, some of the early wins that you had when you joined and took the helm of the Office of Reentry in 2017?
Right. Well, sometimes during an interview process, you get the opportunity to dream up all kind of things that, you wish you could do. And, just kind of doing your homework, your research, and actually having some contact with the people in the sheriff's office, and just kind of understanding the landscape gave me an opportunity to kind of start thinking about how do we incorporate pre-release planning at the local level. Pre-release planning does happen at state prisons, but for smaller local jails, it happens, but not as often. And so what I was able to do when I first came on board was partner with the sheriff's office to actually create a reentry pod at the Hamilton County Justice Center. And the goal of that pod is to prepare people for release by creating these pre-release plans while they're incarcerated, and we are introducing them to providers that they normally wouldn't build a relationship with until they were on the street and in the community. But they're doing that. They were doing that prior to COVID in the Hamilton County Justice Center. The core of that program really is cognitive behavior intervention and trauma-informed care. But bringing those providers into the Justice Center allows these individuals to understand what resources, of course, are available to them when they get out, but also, start developing a method of advocating for themselves. So, that's one of the first successes, I would say, from the work starting in 2017, and it's just grown. I have an awesome team of people who really are passionate about the community that we serve, and they have a diverse amount of experience with these individuals, all the way from workforce development to case management and youth services. So it allows for us to be creative in our space, and it allows for us to build really great partnerships. And so our partnership with the sheriff's office, just has grown. One of the other things that we did early on is create a partnership with River City Correctional. And if you're not from this area and you're not familiar with that facility, you can elect to be housed at River City Correctional because of your addiction. So if you say, yes, I want to go to River City, that means you're committed to the treatment for 180 days. You're going through phases where the last phase is the reentry phase, and you're allowed to leave the campus and work and things like that. So we created this initiative with Cincinnati State. It's a public-private partnership with Ohio Means Jobs as well. We had funding from PNC Foundation to equip women, I think it was 10 or 11 women at River City with their supply chain logistics certificate while they were incarcerated. And so, we applied the services, the wraparound services that they needed. They got their certificates. We've had 4 cohorts of women who have actually gone through this program. We track them as we do with the men in the pod, which I forgot to mention. We track them for 12 months. And, we're looking to see if they're committing or being convicted of new offenses. And if that's the case, then we consider that recidivism. If it's not, then, we're excited about that as well. So, but, the recidivism for both of these initiatives has been very good. The recidivism in Hamilton County, based on, I think, 2016, 2017 numbers, was about 35%. Well, for our pod, our reentry pod at the Justice Center, we were at like 11% recidivism. And then for our women, we had a really low recidivism rate is about 10 to 20%, and that's low because we have such a small group of women dealing with addiction issues, and so we look at it a little differently. Addiction is a whole nother beast, and it takes time, and so we apply this harm reduction model where we don't expect people to get it right the first time. We can't, but we're willing to continue working with you until you get to the point where you feel like you're healthy and safe. So,
have you been able to identify what factors, like really specifically, what factors account for that reduction in the recidivism? Mm-hmm. Or have you been able to really isolate it?
Right. So we haven't. We collect data, but we haven't been able to just specifically isolate. But we can make some anecdotal, assumptions. Really, it's the cognitive behavior. This is what we believe. The cognitive behavior intervention. It's a whole idea around making better decisions, conflict resolution, building better relationships with the people around you. And I think it's extremely important to participants, maintaining their freedom, basically. But also, I really believe it's the trauma-informed care as well. One of the things that we have learned really is, people are hurting. People are hurting everywhere. But people in the criminal justice system have experienced so much, and some of them, not all, but a number of them have experienced a great deal of abuse in their past. They've been victims of multiple crimes, you know what I mean? And so, they're in a place where they need to be made whole, you know what I mean? And they need healing. And so that whole trauma-informed care allows us to kind of get some of those things out on the table and identify some commonalities and experiences, one another.
Is that trauma-informed care aspect, is that addressed generally within the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, or is it just in your program?
I would say that there are certain correctional facilities that have programs within that address trauma-informed care. But I can't say that there are a lot. We partner with Exclusive Services here in Cincinnati, and they provide that those group discussions and kind of a group counseling type approach. And the other thing I forgot to mention is that we have conversations that are led by a group called the LIT Movement, and those conversations are around addiction and around addiction. And so we have NA and AA that would come into the pod and hold group discussions. And then the other unique thing for the Justice Center is our relationship with the Cincinnati Police Department. And that's another piece of the curriculum where our police officers would come in, lead discussions on, police community relations, just building relationships to the point where, when some of our participants have been released, they actually call the police, to drop them off where they need to go after they're released. So, it's really a relationship building, very small scale community police relations type effort too in that pod opportunity for them.
Okay, is it possible that when you approach towards this is Dr. Frank speaking here. As a question about do you look at the causes, if I say the etiology, the causes of these crimes, people looking at the background, for example, talk about family background, previous violence in the family, or unemployment reasons, and looking at so that people who are watching may be able to take precaution so that hopefully if they're doing well, they may think that, well, I'm not going to be a victim. like unlike these, my friends or people here. So is it possible that you're looking at that as well during the course of your program?
Right. So for this pod, we have to have a selection process, and so we use the ORAS tool. It's the Ohio Risk Assessment tool, and it evaluates someone's risk for recidivism. And so within that assessment, there's questions about family relations, prior violence in your family. It looks at your circle of influence and things like that. And so, yes, we take all of that into account because, we're looking for the people who are the most difficult to reach. The people who, are extremely low level, don't need a whole lot of support. If we give them too much, it's not a good outcome. What we need and what we're looking for are the people who have those things that you mentioned in their background that need the most support. That's where we see the greatest impact with the work that we're doing.
Okay, in that same reasoning, what about the aspect of mental causes, factors such as a mental problem that must have occurred that internally within the people that people don't know about? Sometimes they find out, and later on, probably because there is the lack of access to healthcare, and they might not have been attending primary care intervention or going to the doctor. Not even they talk about being able to be diagnosed. So sometimes when things happen later on, they say, okay, it might have been because this person has some kind of mental problem. When the person has not been diagnosed or didn't have a chance to be going to the doctor. So do you consider mental problem when you look at the program? I mean, assessment includes mental problem, internal problem that can be mental, because in that case, people will not know. The public will not know that these people have mental problem because it's considered confidential, and because of HIPAA. And then also the fact is that it will be hidden in them until such a time that a crime is committed. Then people will start thinking, oh, what would have been the reason for this crime?
Mm-hmm. Right. So I would say a significant number of people that we work with on a daily basis have mental health concerns. We have a mental health court here in Cincinnati. One of the things that we've noticed too is that mental health and of course addiction go hand in hand sometimes. So we have those co-occurring, issues here, and we make a lot of referrals to mental health facilities here. Unfortunately, though, a lot of our clients would benefit more from residential treatment. And, when they started closing all the institutions here in Cincinnati that would provide, that intensive mental health support, it left the jail as the primary organization to house people with mental health and addiction issues. And so, that's what our law enforcement assisted diversion initiative is kind of designed to do. Is we know we can't incarcerate people who are mentally ill to a point where their criminal activity stops. It doesn't work like that. What we have to do is provide them with case management and support and treatment instead of incarcerating them. And so our law enforcement assisted diversion initiative, which we call LEAD, is designed to do that. It's designed to target those individuals and have those referrals come from the police, so that when they have an interaction with the police, or if there's someone that's a frequent flyer with the police officers as far as just knowing these individuals in the community and suffering from mental illness, instead of arresting them, incarcerating them, taking them through the criminal justice system, those individuals in the areas where we're working, they're being referred to LEAD to actually receive case management and coordination of care. Because what we find is that individuals, people will have a case manager. They're working with some form of treatment program at one point or another. Somehow they fall off. You know what I mean? They aren't staying on top of their treatment and things like that. What they need is somebody to help them get back into treatment, help them get back connected to the different resources that will help them be stable. And so that's what the LEAD initiative is designed to do. And it is new, you know, it's a year old, but you know, we partner with the city of Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Police Department, District 1, and our Central Business District. We're also accepting referrals from Corrin Township and Norwood, the city of Norwood. So, you know, we're hoping to expand as we, you know, continue to add more capacity to this office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Gray, start talking again. I have muted myself. It was such good dialogue. So it's good to hear that you all are caring for the mental health, because I know issues, because they're often, as you said, just put in the system and no one is addressing that mental health. And I want to point out that if they have a referral from the police department, when the police pull up their record, say if it's another policeman that didn't know anything about it, that note is in there on that person. So that's another opportunity for them to get the care that they need and not just be put into the system the wrong way. So just wanted to point that out. And this kind of circle back to those who are kind of already been out, and how do you serve the returning citizens who kind of already have been out, and what are some of your initiatives? And then this will be a good lead in to the record sealing clinics, and talk about what CQEs are, which are certificates for qualification of employment, and how that works and how people can get into those pipelines as well.
Right. So our programming allows us to track recidivism, but our day-to-day client engagement, we are open from 9 to 4 just for clients. And so, you know, we don't require a appointment. You know, you can just stop by at any time. And so we're seeing people, you know, throughout the day. And a lot of our clients are in need of help with their IDs. You know, they either have lost their offender card when they were released, or, you know, they've just been in community and, you know, can't find their ID, don't have their driver's license, things like that. So we help them with that process. We also really, when somebody comes to our office for, you know, kind of full support from us, because people will come just for help with their ID, and that's okay, and we'll do that. But you know, if someone else is looking for more support, we do what is considered a life plan for them, so that we, you know, identify goals. You know, we have to start sometimes kind of small. You know, they may walk in the door probably 9 times out of 10 and say, I want a job. But, you know, 1, they may not be able to pass the drug screen. 2, you know, they may not be on their meds for, you know, their mental health. Or, you know, they've been sober for 2 days and, you know, they're ready to go. Like, sobriety, you know, is long term, and it takes support. And so we want to be able to provide you with that, so that when you do get a job, you're able to maintain it. And so I have 4 coordinators, reentry coordinators, who see clients throughout the day, and they work on those plans, and they connect them to resources in the community and we will support anyone if they have a conviction in their background. You know, you can have a conviction and not have served time, and we'll still work with you. It can be a federal, state, or a local offense. It doesn't matter to us. You know, if you're a returning citizen, if you have any form of justice involvement, DUI, whatever, we'll work with you, because we know that, you know, there are always you know, barriers that go along with that conviction in your background. So we want to help, you know, whoever we can get around that and, you know, have a good quality of life. So, you know, we have treatment providers here in the community. We have employment partners. You know, we help with food, you know, help someone, refer them for food assistance. Housing is a huge struggle for us, like probably like in other counties. You know, we're like, 40,000 affordable housing units short. you know, and yeah. And so when you think about our population, saying affordable housing doesn't always describe the need for our clients. Really, you know, for us, we try to push and tell people we need gap housing. We need a place for people to land, not just coming out of incarceration, but, you know, if they've been in the community for a long time, they probably have been unstable with housing. And so they need a place to just stay that's safe, clean, near employment centers, that they can, you know, get themselves together, you know, receive the right support so that they can become stable and then move on. So, you know, their income typically is not in the range of affordable housing. It's not in that range. So, so that's, you know, but we have some, you know, landlords that are willing to rent to, you know, our clients, and so, you know, we make referrals for rental units that, you know, like I said, are partners of ours. And then, you know, if someone needs clothing, we can refer them to an organization that can help them with that. We refer to shelters. It's really a full kind of holistic coordination of care for individuals that come through our office, and we follow them for as long as they need us to. It really doesn't matter if we haven't talked to you in 36 months and you come back through the door, we will be happy to help you. And, you know, if it's where you left off or you're in another place, you know, we'll start things back up.
Hello,
sort of
a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, real quick, I just want to kind of point out, focus on the housing just a little bit. Okay. So if you think of your local metropolitan housing, so down here in Cincinnati is Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. CMHA is the main public housing authority that have scattered sites, communities throughout Hamilton County. And traditionally, if you had a record, you know, or you coming out, you can't live in those spaces. Well, that's the most affordable level of housing available. Through the work of Trina, and she doesn't tell all the things she does, a lot of this legwork behind the scenes, people who are coming out now have an opportunity to at least get some gap housing. They haven't changed all their rules, but at least have some gap housing where they can be at a CMHA community. I think it was for 6 months, correct? Right. And so that's critical because they're still trying to get everything else stabilized, right? They're still trying to finalize getting a job. You got to get an ID. So that's critical. And then other things, if you're coming out of a federal level prison, you have to have housing secured. So affordable housing affects a lot of things, not just the roof over your head, but it affects how your probation is going to go, if you can leave a halfway house to more stable housing, you know, accessibility to jobs, all of those kind of things. Because if you're in a halfway house, there's limited hours you can work, where there are a lot of opportunities outside of the traditional 9 to 4 time to work. So I just wanted to point that out and give you kudos for your work behind the scenes to help make that happen. And that was a lot of negotiations, a lot of grassroots efforts to even change that mindset so that more people will have more accessibility to affordable housing. We'll go to Ambrose, then Anthony, and then back to Dr. Frank.
I was just gonna
and then Chantry, I'll get to your question.
Sort of ask a question, make a comment on sort of going to your background, Trina, when you talked about your criminal justice undergrad. I've met there are a lot of folks over the years with that have a criminal justice or in my case criminology undergrad, but they end up going into different professions, which may seem like it's not necessarily as closely related to that criminal justice background. Part of the thing when I went through my undergrad, I had an internship with the parole board, and they were just starting their guidelines. So my job was to go through inmate files who were coming up for parole and to do this to do the assessment, you know, with the scoring based upon prior offenses, level of education, substance abuse, all of those things, and then also read some of the factors, the facts. And it was very traumatizing even to me to read some of those case files. And given that many of the individuals started when they were 11 years old sometimes, stealing candy out the store. Once they got into the system, it just seemed to be a continuous pattern from there. So I sort of decided at that time that the objective should be to avoid the criminal justice system at all costs. So we have to keep people from getting involved with it. And so I completed the undergrad degree, but in terms of going into law, my focus was to try and find ways to keep people from getting there. And it seemed like economics was a major factor in terms of, what assets or income, where people lived, that kind of thing. So I was just wondering, with respect to yourself, starting out with your criminal justice degree, your current profession is still closely aligned with that. So what motivated you, or what kept you in that area?
Oh, wow. It's funny you say that. I was just talking to somebody about my experience back then. I did work detail. My internship was with work detail, juvenile work detail. And we would take these young men from a place here called 2020, which is a jail for youth. And we take them to do, community service. And there was this one young man that he was so smart, you know what I mean? He was very outgoing. If I could take him and put him in the right environment, he would have thrived. And I will never forget him. We had great conversations, very intelligent. And I just know that there are so many more people and youth, especially out there, that, we have lost for some reason. And they ended up in the system, and they should never have been in the system. This young man, if I was in my 20s, you know what I mean? I lived with my mom, you know what I mean? I couldn't take this young man with me, but if I could have, I would have. So that's kind of what has always kind of stuck with me. If I could just help as many people and keep as many people out of the system, I would, and I remember, I think around that time I had jury duty, and I sat there and I watched attorney after attorney talk to their clients, and they always use the term next time. And I'm like, who said there's going to be a next time? You know what I mean? But that's what they expected. And, that young man, he stays with me. He just, in my head, he's with me in my heart. And I think about him, when I hear, especially when I heard a conversation like that, I'm like, where is he? I wish I could find him, But, that just kind of, fueled my passion to do whatever I can to help keep our youth out of the justice system, and anybody else I can keep out of there.
Okay, I have one question from the audience that typed in the chat, and it says, why is it limited hours for residents can work if living in a halfway house? So basically, if they're in a halfway house, why is it such limited hours that they can work?
A lot of times those restrictions are imposed by the parole officers. Usually send people to halfway houses. So that means they came from a state prison. And so it usually is reflective of, whatever offense they were convicted of. In some cases, they want them back in that house by a certain time so that they can keep track of them, and they probably see it as prevention. But for other people, it's very restrictive, because if you want to work third shift, you have to get permission to work third shift. You have to get permission to work second shift. And then of course, if you get third shift, is the bus running during third shift? some places the buses aren't running, you know, and so now you have a transportation challenge, and now, you know, sometimes you're late getting back to the halfway house, you know what I mean? And so, you know, it's just, and then if you have a parole officer that has no form of, you know, leniency, put it that way, you're late, you're violated, and then you're back in state prison, you know, so.
For trying to work.
We're trying to work. We're trying to work. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go to Mr. Barwick and then Dr. Frank again.
Mine is a question. Mine is more just an appreciation for what you do, Trina. Your staff, the office, whether you're in Hamilton, in Montgomery, or what have you. I don't feel like it's just enough attention and appreciation and consideration for what returning citizens have to face. This is my only personal opinion, you know, but it's just, you know, there should be some kind of process where if you served your time, then you should be afforded, you know, according to some, you know, the crime that you commit and that kind of thing, that your slate should be wiped clean if you served it. You shouldn't have to constantly be revisited by your past. But that's you know, that's a totally different subject. But I just want to say you are very much appreciated from me. You know, for those that did not know, it's not a secret. I have 2 sons that are currently incarcerated, and they're in state prisons, and they will be going through the halfway house. And it's nothing that I'm ashamed of anymore. You know, it's something that had happened, and I know I'm not the only father or parent of family, but I'm just telling you from a father that you and your office are greatly appreciated, and I'm so glad that we have a relationship that we're establishing with your office and for everything that you're doing. So that's just straight from the heart.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we're gonna go to Dr. Frank. He had another question, and then we're gonna spend the last bit of time talking about our reentry, record sealing, and entree to entrepreneurship program in the last segment. Go ahead, Dr.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I have to say thank you to all the planners for this meeting, and I so much enjoyed it. Special thanks to Mr. Barwick, and then Amber, Ambrose, Ms. Trina for honoring the invitation. And last time I wasn't able to attend, but I might have attended it in last minute, which was half bread is better than none. So, but anyway, I promised myself that I might look like I'm going to be the first person this time, and I actually happen to be one of the first 3 to attend the meeting and then participate because I so much enjoyed this conversation. And I said special thanks to Mr. Barwick for you know, initiating this gathering. My other question that I had is Miss Trina, apologies. Do you have a data as to how long ago this program started? Do you have data as to how many of these young men, I will say young men, maybe young women as well, will stay sober? And that means in about 2 years after and you have time limitation set up for when they behave a certain number of years, and the record will be completely gone. And most of the time they will stay without anything else on that record. Let's say they don't go back to the old kind of experience, all kind of acts ever. Is there any data that you're putting together to be able to support that, and maybe that will come up with some kind of publication in future as to reflect the effort of the organization and possibly attract more grants into this organization as well, this program?
That's a great question. We now have a system. So when I came on board, we were still using Access. And so we've got, so we've been having a journey on that again. Don't laugh, Amber, I see you. We've been on a journey. So we went from Access to reentrysoftware.com, and it kind of didn't provide what we needed. And so now we're using something called Vesta. And Vesta is a database that's used here by our strategies in homelessness. Initially it was, and it's used by other organizations, service providers. And so it allows us to kind of share information when we need to, and it allows us to track recidivism. So I'm like all excited about our new data. So so what we're doing is we've started tracking clients per month. And we're looking to see, we're looking at arrest records, because that's really all that we can get from our pretrial department right now is the arrests. And so I can get you that information. If you want that, I'd be happy to give that to you. I'm so excited that we're able to track it. I'm glad to hand it over. Like, I have it. So yeah, so we track that. And then for our lead, people who we take to treatment or help them get treatment, we're able to track number of days sober, and then a number of days, of course, maintaining the program. If they stay, we take them, they stay, they don't leave. Of course, we have some that, we take them in 3 days, they leave. So yeah, I can get that information to you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say Chantrice was laughing too. I'm going to call her out because she said that good old Access. So she's in our admin, so she knows firsthand. And she said that the records that you're tracking, the information that you're tracking, the data, that was awesome. So thank you so much, Shashanka.
Thank you.
And, so with that being said, as everyone knows, our CED team looks to see where there may be gaps or ways that we can augment the great work that other people are doing that positively impact the communities that we serve. So I reached out to Trina because I said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to finally be able to work together. And we are talking about, the record sealing clinics, as you will keep hearing us say. We will be doing that in collaboration with Judge Alan Triggs here. We're putting a different twist. So as you heard earlier, Trina says, that community-oriented policing, we're using that same kind of methodology and incorporating the judge into the record sealing process so that they can see that the judge is human too, right? And that a lot of judges really do care. We did a trial run back in December with Judge Triggs, and what I found amazing, not just the impact of the record sealing, but also how many judges stopped by to say, hey, how are you doing this? We want to be part of it when you all ramp it back up next year. So this is something that's going to be coming about. And when Anthony was talking about the time limit so that you're not in the, being criminalized for whatever you did 10, 20 years ago, in addition to record sealing, those same group of judges are working to get that time limit instituted at the state level. So it hasn't gotten there yet, but I know there is a grumblings and beginning movement in that direction. So that's good to know. But with the record sealing clinics, I think it's very important for people to realize that affects the housing, that affects your access to education, that affects your access to jobs, because now you don't have to talk about being re-traumatized really about something that keeps affecting everything you're trying to move forward, and that keeps bringing you back. So that's the importance of record sealing. That's why we made that one of our signature kind of initiatives and programs, and we are really pushing it in Hamilton County and creating this new model so they can be duplicated throughout the state. Because one of the things I found out is on record sealing, a lot of people will have a good record sealing program, but they don't really do a good job of getting the people there, the engagement piece, or getting the word out effectively for the people who need to get their records sealed. So Trina, can you talk about your experience and how you firsthand have seen some of the impacts of people getting their record seals, and talk a little bit about the CQE alternative if they can't get the record sealed?
Right. So in Ohio, things have gotten better at the state level. Less restrictions on what offenses can be sealed or expunged. And so we typically encourage people with misdemeanors, not too many felonies, but with mostly misdemeanors, to pursue the opportunity to expunge or seal their records, so that like Amber said, they have an opportunity for better housing and better employment. It's still for certain sectors like healthcare, it's very limited as far as what somebody can do as far as an occupation. But we typically encourage our clients, if they think they might be able to have their records sealed or expunged, to work with either Ohio Justice and Policy Center or our Public Defender's Office. And our Public Defender's Office, I would say they're one of the best, because they will give you every bit of information they can to help you get this done. We offer something called a one-stop resource center on the final Friday of every month. And the goal of that is to just eliminate the barriers to accessing supportive services. So we bring like 30 plus providers together on the final Friday. And, it's to address issues like healthcare, mental health care, addiction. And the amazing thing is that our Public Defender's Office is there every month to look at people's records to determine if they can be sealed or expunged. So, they're very invested in that. And then the CQE is the Certificate of Qualification for Employment. And we encourage our clients to pursue that as well. And that is an opportunity to, have a judge certify you as someone who has kept their record clean for, X number of months or years, has demonstrated that they are, interested in a different lifestyle, and when you're able to demonstrate that to a judge, they will give you this certificate to take to an employer and say that this is a good employment investment, for this company. So usually it's people with misdemeanors. Sometimes it's people who have, been involved in some form of trafficking, maybe prostitution, it's lots of different things. I really can't say what exactly, people that have been on probation and have done very well and have been off probation for a year maybe, and they have been working and they want to not just work, they want a career. So, they ask the, judge to grant this, and they demonstrate that they have basically stayed out of the justice system, and they have been working and, basically been a model citizen, for lack of a better word. And so they can take that certificate to an employer, and, it also impacts the liability for an employer. If they accept that certificate, they hire that individual, any issues that arise, we had a certificate to show that this person was a good investment for us. So, it just improves their opportunity for, a career or, type of employment they want.
And I want to highlight that business side of it. So the CQE, if traditionally before those were in existence, if I was a criminal or a returning citizen and you hired me, and say a customer came in, there was some kind of argument or whatever, and that customer decides they want to sue, and they found out that I was a returning citizen, then they could sue the company because they said that I was too risky of an employee. And then also the business case on the backside of it, on the back end, is that insurance companies would raise your insurance rates if you hired ex-offenders. So that CQE prevents that insurance company from saying you're riskier because you hired an ex-offender. So you have all these things going on in place, and then you have the probation officer telling you to go get a job. So that just further compounds your ability to get a job, right? And not continue being on probation or being sent back to prison. So those CQEs and being able to get your record sealed are really critical. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I think that from a systemic aspect, I can see where the CQE, can be beneficial. But the thing that really hits me that I would, want to learn more about and see happen more is the CBT, the cognitive behavior training or treatment. Because what I'm gathering from the little bit that you said about it is that it's actually helping change not even just help, but changing the mindset of individuals, which when you do, any kind of community and economic development, any kind of work, trying to change people's conditions, mindset always comes out as a major factor. And so to the extent that things can be done and are being done to help improve that, I think that's something that needs to be, even beyond the population that we're talking about here today. Being able to change people's mindset is like just crucial. And it's, I think that we're sort of, as a society, getting into an area where it's being taken more seriously now in terms of the mental and emotional aspect of life. But that is something I think that there needs to be even just more effort and focus put into.
Excuse me, I will have to leave. I apologize. So I thought I let you know, I don't want to just sneak out. Okay. So everybody, so thank you for the time, and I wish I have doctor's appointment I gotta go to. So that already scheduled to go. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then
Ambrose. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that kind of leads to our entree to entrepreneurship programming as well. So when I posed the idea to Trina, it was about, okay, I already knew you had all these social services. I knew you had the trauma-informed care. I knew you had the CBT in place. You had people helping, to get the barrier busters, access to uniforms, clothing, needed for work, just to get to the next step of self-sufficiency. And one of the gaps was that there wasn't any formal training or to talk about the access of entrepreneurship and giving the returning citizens an opportunity to explore if that is an option for them. And in that training, Ambrose, this is why, from our previous conversations, why I said it can't just be just the nuts and bolts of entrepreneurship. We have to care for the other pieces, the mental development as well. And even though I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, I'm not in counseling. However, that emotional intelligence and diversity piece is where that comes in, and that augments what they're already learning through the CPT training and trauma-informed care, and giving them some practical tools to apply all of that in their day-to-day. And then we have the personal development component, of course, the nuts and bolts of just entrepreneurship, what it is, what it entails, starting the participants on exploring, coming up with their mission statement, coming up with their vision statement. What is it that you want to do? Conceptualizing that potential business. And part of that conceptualization is a document that Ambrose put together called a 4-page business plan. So when they get finished in those 3 months, they will at least have that 4-page business plan completed, and they're ready to go to the next step in that entrepreneurship journey. But also we have the piece where we have former other returning citizens who have come back and are businessmen, right? Or businesswomen, and they're entrepreneurs themselves. They're very successful, because I can't, you have to keep it authentic, right? And I can't speak as from the viewpoint of being in jail because I've never been in jail. I can say because I have brothers who have been in and out of jail, one who's killed because of that lifestyle, that was murdered, that was shot. I can speak to the impacts on our family. I can speak from that, but I can't speak from being that actual person who got incarcerated. So that is the point of bringing in other entrepreneurs, because they can speak to that because they've been down that road. And then they might even, if they choose not to be an entrepreneur, they can also look at those might be potential employers who might even hire them, right? So it's comprehensive way that we're doing that. And I look forward to when we get to launch it once the pods open back up. But just want to keep that conversation and how that was birthed. And that would be one of the ways that we are collaborating. And then when Trina was talking about her one-stop shop, we will be participating in that as well. So make sure you stage us right next to the public defender's office, because I have many conversations for them. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, and want to make sure there weren't any other questions and or comments from the our audience. Shashonda, Chantrice, Donna, Paige.
Hi, it's Paige. I just want to say thanks and how much I appreciated the information that you shared today. And being stationed here in Southeast Ohio, it helps me to see the impact that Central State Extension could have here through similar programs with our local reentry program. So thanks for opening my mind and giving me something to have a little inspiration in today. Not that Amber's giggling isn't enough inspiration for me, but this is like professional inspiration. But I really appreciate it very much. Thanks for joining us.
And
Thank you.
And Ms.
Appreciate it.
Shanice had said that she didn't have any questions, but this was informative, and thank you for sharing with us today. And Shashonda Davis said, thank you, Trina, for your time. This was good stuff.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Donna, if I can chime in.
Yes.
Very good, very informative. This is the second webinar that I've participated in, and I am continue to be pleased. It is great to see the work that your team, Anthony, is doing. So kudos to you all. I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Very informative.
Thank you. Thank you. And our time is up, but I just want to quickly say to everyone again, thank you, Trina, for taking the time and being a partner. Thank you, Amber, for a great lead, being our facilitator today. Thank you all for your attendance. These CED Office Hour lives are meant for this, to share the information, our partners, and to share what CED is doing. So we truly respect you for your attendance, whether it's one person or 5 million. And one last quick shout out. CED is having a Ohio Small Business / Agribusiness Information Summit. It's going to be virtual. It's October 13th. We have a partnership with the Secretary of State, SBA, USDA, Department of Development with the state of Ohio. We're going to have Star Power with Secretary of State LaRose, some executives, President Thomas, and we're going to have Congresswoman Beatty to appear, to speak to. So I just want to say thank you. I respect your time.
Thank you.
Could you give me the registration link and I can go ahead and type it in for that?
Paige, can you provide that really quickly?
I can. Hang on one quick second.
I should have it.
And while she's typing that in, Trina, once again, as always, thank you. I will, once the it goes through the final editing or whatever, I will send you the link. So feel free to put it on your YouTube page and use it however you see fit. And I will, of course, be following up with you because it's time for me to give you the updates for our next steps on a couple things. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed this conversation. I always love working with Amber. Anytime I can, I will. That's my Amber.
And thank you. And this concludes our CED Office Hour Live for September 23rd, 2021. And we'll see you next week.
Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye-bye.